Islam or that of the Prophet. So we'll ask Shahram Hadian, who is a former Muslim turned Christian pastor, why are these ISIS Muslims murdering Muslims? Well, the answer short is they don't see them as real Muslims. They see them as, quote, hypocrites or apostate. So we've got a lot to report tonight. As we are on the air here, we already know largely the media is ignoring the slaughter of at least 1,000 or more Christians over the weekend in Syria. This is happening by the new leader of Syria that was set up, many believe, by Western powers to replace Bashar al-Assad. Not that he was a good guy, but Leo Holman, myself, Usama, Shahram, we all warned, we were afraid this was going to happen. And now you'll see the videos. Some of them we have to play tonight are kind of tough, but I think we have to play them because people need to see what's happening to many of our Christian brothers in Syria and sisters. Just as we played without censoring it, what was happening on October 7th. And again, the question is, where are all the Jew haters now? Because guess who it looks like is coming to the aid of these folks? Who's coming to the aid of the Christians? It looks like it's going to be the Israeli government. That's what it looks like. It's going to be the Jews coming to the aid of the Christians. And what about those who said that Islam is not a spiritual threat to the church? Oh, yeah, we got a video we got to play for you on that. And a lot more to get to related to Israel, the Middle East. And then, of course, I want to bring on Dr. Lucky. Remember Dr. Lucky? Dr. Lucky has the great books out there on inflammation and so much more. I want to talk to him about inflammation. I want to talk to him about regulating blood glucose levels. I want to talk to him about insulin, optimizing insulin, lowering bad cholesterol, upping our good cholesterol, normalizing our blood pressure, cardiac health. And I want to talk to him about prebiotics and other things like that. That and more with Dr. Lucky tonight. But first, we're going to have our reporter on the ground in Israel, Aaron Lavarco, and then Shahram Hadian. All right. Hey, let's go right away before we get to our first interview to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. It's all there, folks. Very quickly, remember, we need your support. We're brought to you by you. We got great products. We use them ourselves. So please, folks, get on board. Gatatana, I take it every day. I take a full scoop in water. You see me drink it at the desk. Dolly gets a half a scoop on her food. This is great for pets, fights cancer, and it's got trace minerals. Clinical trials behind this. Bella Grace, we know all about that. That's wonderful. Go there. Swish for Life, that's loaded with glutathione that detoxes our cells. Within 90 seconds of swishing it, you're getting that glutathione into your bloodstream to detox your cells. Some studies show it may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. Don't forget also about Worldview Talk, where you can get your free satellite phone when you sign up for one of their very reasonable monthly plans. They have generators, solar generators, and more. I have the satellite phone. I have their solar generators. I have their bulletproof backpacks. Folks, this is a great company. We love Tina and the guys at Worldview Talk. The water filter, okay? One of my friends asked me about the water filter today or yesterday in an email. These are awesome. I have one under my counter. I drink the water. Dolly loves it. It's taking out all kinds of chemicals that can cause cancer. So, folks, this is serious. And then you can also get one for your shower if you want as well. And there's Dolly in the background barking. Why are you barking? That's the boys in the control room. Why are you barking at the boys in the control room? So there you go. Go to worldviewwater.net or just worldviewtube.com/sponsors, and you'll see all of the great products that we have, including Worldview Healthcare. That's the wellness company with ivermectin, amoxicillin, all the great things you can get, supplements, the medical kits, the medical plans. It's all there, folks. worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Let's get right away to our first guest. Joining me now is our reporter on the ground in Israel, Aaron Lavarco, brought to you by our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com. Aaron, we've got breaking news, of course, out of the Middle East. We covered a lot of it today on radio and television, you and Shahram, the murder of a lot of people, including Christians. But first, we'll go back to that in a minute. But you also have breaking news related to the Kurds. What's going on?
Absolutely, I would say shocking news. The Kurds, who are up in the northeastern part of Syria, they are an ally of the United States. Now, the Kurds, who control about a third of Syria, including a lot of the natural resources. The breaking news, Brandon, is that they have just signed an agreement, a ceasefire agreement with Giuliani, the new Syrian government. And that will mean, now here's the big news to that, is the Kurds hold in their prison thousands and thousands of ISIS prisoners. Even the Biden administration was aware of this. And this is one of the main reasons why the Kurds have been a close ally of the United States, because the United States, with their intelligence, have helped hunt down a lot of these ISIS prisoners, or rather terrorists. Well, you can guarantee 100% where these ISIS prisoners are going to end up. They're going to end up in uniform. They're going to end up with a gun, to say the least, and they're going to join in Giuliani's fight. And let's not forget, Giuliani, his past is not only with Al-Qaeda, but also with ISIS. This is terrible news, very serious news. And on top of that, Giuliani, who is backed by Turkey, they're going to take over a lot of the natural resources of Syria. So this is going to empower and embolden Giuliani and his army and his government. And I mentioned this earlier, Brennan, when we were talking with Sharham, that this is why when the civil war broke out in Syria three months ago, the first thing that happened is Israel came in and destroyed a lot, and I mean a lot of weapons, airplanes, airstrips, communication and military caches, because we know the nature of these people who took over Syria. So what a disaster this is going to be. This is also going to embolden and empower Turkey, who are behind them. This is dramatic news, and we need to be on our knees. We need to be blowing the shofar and praying for our government. Our government in Israel, they've got some big decisions to make. Of course, their allies right now in Syria they were the Kurds. They were one of the allies, but that's not going to be anymore. But our allies are going to be the Druze. And we have pledged that we will protect the Druze. The Druze are in the southwestern part of Syria, so it's a little bit far away, but certainly not out of the reach of these people who want to take over and then ultimately take over Israel. That's definitely Turkey's intention. So the action is just heating up in a different way.
How about the relationship between Turkey and Iran? Where's that at?
So for now, Iran, because of what's happened, especially with Israel basically taking out Nasrallah, and with the pages killing dozens and wounding literally thousands, Hezbollah have basically had their legs cut off. And Hezbollah were the main proxy of Iran, along with Hamas. So for the time being, Iran are kind of out of the picture, except for the nuclear question. They still have that issue up their sleeve. And we talked about that, how America, Trump, and Israel have been talking about that. So for now, Iran are a little bit out the side. Turkey they've basically taken over as the #1 main Islamic nation in the world. Now, Turkey are a lot stronger than Iran. If there's a fight between those two, and by the way, they don't like each other. They're at odds against each other. They don't like each other. For now, Turkey, they are really in a very strong place, a very threatening place, especially to Israel. Now, the other news connected to what I said, what I've just reported on, is that there are strong concerns, and justified strong concerns, that now Jolani and the Kurds are probably going to make an attack, to some degree or another, an attack on Iraq, the Iraqis. And the Iraqis have a lot of Kurds there as well. So this is just spreading
How
like
concerned
a
are you?
wildfire.
How concerned are you about like our the American military compound in Iraq?
Yeah, that is an issue. That is a major issue. Look, I know your feelings and your sentiments about America getting involved in other parts of the world, and I totally understand that. From my point of view, I love seeing a strong America. I love seeing them flex their muscles, because they know, and this is historical, and certainly with Donald Trump, when an American leader speaks the language of the Middle East, which is strength, security based on strength, that the people of the Middle East, they respect that. And so from my point of view, I want to see Donald Trump come in. I don't want to see him being a man of war, but in order to protect people from being annihilated like we're seeing in Syria, I want to see him come in. I want to see the American troops, even if it's from the air or from the sea. I want to see them come in. I want to see them use the Middle East language. And I believe that there will be consequences. You know, President Biden, he didn't know how to deal with the Houthis in the south. And because of that, the Houthis, who are based in Yemen, they fired so many missiles at the Americans, not just at Israel, not just at other nations, but the Americans. And Joe Biden and that administration, they didn't know what to do. I personally think that if we saw a strong Donald Trump and an American military, I think things might well calm down.
Let's switch over to the persecution. We dealt with it on radio and TV today, but the internet is full of images like this. Here you go. Look at this.
مو بحب بدنا واحد بحب ايوه.
What's going on here? I mean, it's hard to tell if these are these Christians or are these this Muslim group that was loyal to Assad? Which one is this? Can you tell?
Well, I can't tell, but based on all the videos that have been coming out and I've been watching, these are Giuliani's men who are taking over Syria. And Brandon, my question is, where are the people who were out on the streets shouting "Free Palestine"? Why aren't they out there on the streets now saying "Free Syria"? Liberate Syria. Why aren't they out there now? These are the same spirit, the same natured people as Hamas and what they did to our people on October the 7th, and they're still doing with our people in captivity. You don't see them out on the streets protesting. You don't see them supporting these people, and I want to know why. But these look to me like Giuliani's men, and they're ISIS and Al-Qaeda backed and affiliated.
Yeah, and we did a whole hour on this today, folks. You'll find it at worldviewtube.com, a whole hour on this. But here we go. Again, some of these some of it's a little graphic. Here we go. Again, Christians being killed, openly being killed and shot. You see a lot of footage if you get out there on Twitter or what is now called X. You're going to find a lot of footage of them just randomly shooting these people and executing them. Many of them are Christians. We know that for a fact, don't we, Aaron?
We do know that for a fact because people that I know have been receiving emails and texts from some of the people in Syria, some Christian people in Syria, saying that their brothers and sisters are being slaughtered. pray, we need your help, etc., etc. So we know for a fact that there are Christians, and the numbers are at least in the hundreds, maybe even in the thousands.
This is a little graphic. I'm sorry, folks, but this is the nature of what's happening. Here is what is being reported to be a man that they have crucified him, and now they're blowing his head off. And so, again, very, very troubling, needless to say. We need to be praying for the Christians. I'm sorry that's so graphic, folks, but I think we need that. I think there's a time to show what's really happening and not to try to be too sensitive, because I think we need to wake people up. Not that I think I'd have to wake our audience up too much, but this is so
no
horrific.
I think, Brandon, I think that's I think that's a very good point you made. It is terribly shocking seeing that, but sometimes we need to be shocked to be woken up.
Yep.
It's like when people suffer from trauma or PTSD. One of the things that apparently people will give for treatment is either an electric shock, or they will put you in a bath with ice, and it freezes you. And what it does, because we've got two parts of the brain, the front part of the brain is the part that gets desensitized or traumatized or shocked, so that the back part of the brain cannot function properly. So the idea to shock the front part of the brain is to wake it up again. So I agree that this is needed. We need to wake up. We need to see what these people are doing. And we see from these videos that it's not necessarily, see, a few days before all this broke out, it was people from the Alawite community that attacked Jolani's people and his army. So instead of hitting just the Alawite people, which they're doing, they're just massacring anyone and everyone that they can get hands on. So these people, they're uncontrolled, animalistic, and their true nature is coming out, which we knew all about. And I said before that this man Julani, before he took over Syria, the United States administration had a $10 million bounty on his head because he was a terrorist. And for some reason, that was taken off, and it needs to be put back on.
Indeed,
now.
it does. Here's some more footage. Here we go. Of course, you can hear them shouting Allah Akbar, can't you? And we played. I won't play the whole thing. I'm going to just play a minute or two of this. This is this gentleman in Syria begging. We played this today.
Covering my face now because I don't want anyone to see my face, because if they see me, they will kill me. I'm from Syria. I live now in the city of Latakia. Please, please, please. The media is not showing you anything. The terrorists are killing everyone, children, women, teenagers, old people, just killing. There is more than 100 bodies in my... There is more than 100 bodies in my village now. Even in the city, they are just taking the children and the women and kill them. I don't know what to do with my mom and my two sisters. Please, you gotta help us. Nobody's talking anything about it. Not the social media or the TV channels. They are all hiding the truth. They are saying that they are killing the resistance, but this is end up 2 days ago. Please, you gotta help us. They have been killing people since 2 days until now. Hundred of bodies are thrown in the street, in the villages, and in the city of Syria. We are not allowed to go out of the house. They just come to the houses, take the people, kill them outside of the house, and take all the phones so nobody record or do anything. Please, you gotta help us. I have two sisters. I have two sisters. I don't know what to do with them. If it's okay for me if I die, but not for my two sisters or my mom. One of them is a teenager. Please, you gotta help us. Nobody's talking anything about it. Human rights, United Nations, anyone, America, anyone, just please help us. You need to do something about it. The social media is not showing anything. Most of my relative people are dead in my village. There is bodies in the street. We are afraid for the little kids. There is nobody left. Like, we are being killed. All of us, all the Alawite and the Christian. For God's sake, if you believe in humanity, if you believe in any religion that you want, just please, you need to save us. You need to do something about this. The TV is not showing anything, not Al Jazeera, not any TV channel. They are all covering what's happening now. Until this moment, there is people coming from another from another cities from Syria, like Idlib and Hama and Homs. They are coming just to kill people. They are still coming until now and killing people randomly. Not women or children or anything. They kill everybody. They are demons.
They're demons. Again, we played the full video earlier today. Oh, Aaron.
Brennan, Brennan, you know what? Who are supposed to be the defenders of the world, so to speak? The United Nations, the EU. I saw today that the EU, not only on one hand they condemned what's going on in Syria, but then if you can find the headline, they invited Jolani to be a guest at a donor conference where people are donating certain things and humanitarian aid or something like that. And on top of that, it came out in the news that the president of the ICC, the International Criminal Courts, who banned Bibi Netanyahu from traveling and said he would be arrested and accused him of genocide, they showed him shaking hands with Jolani. These are the people that are the leaders of these world organizations where a lot of our tax money gets sent to. It is shocking, and I don't know why our nations are part of these organizations. They should break free from them.
Yeah, absolutely. They should break free from them. Let's see if I can find that picture here for you. Well, here's one of them right here. Syria, Al-Jawlani only shook hands with Jean Noor Barat and not with whoever. But there you go. I mean, it's out there. Pull that down. I'll go to another one because people are now starting to react to it. This one is for sure. Germany reacts after new Syrian leader Abu Mohammed declined to shake hands with its foreign minister. But you're right. In fact, this was, when was this? This was dated January 5th of this year. Here, let's play it.
There we go.
But there he is. There they are with this guy, you know, giving him credibility, right? He's taken off his ISIS uniform and put on a suit. He's still a thug and a terrorist.
That's it. It was just like when Yasser Arafat went to the United Nations. He had what was it? He had an olive leaf and a pistol. That's what he went with. And he ended up deceiving even our leaders, Yitzhak Rabin and Shimon Peres. But that poor man in that video is just one voice out of probably, thousands.
Well, here's a young man. This is a young man, okay? Again, I'm sorry, it's graphic. That's a young kid.
Yeah.
That's a young kid. And X is full of this. I could sit here and show these to you all day long, Aaron.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I want to see the U.S. get involved in a Middle Eastern war. I'm not saying that.
No.
But maybe we have ships there. We have some aircraft, maybe some strategic, we have drones there. Maybe some strategic strikes are necessary to calm this down. I'm not interested in putting boots on the ground, but maybe some well-fired tomahawks or whoever knows what else. But I think we need to take this guy out. But I think, I hate to tell you this, I think our CIA prior to Donald Trump is who put this guy in order to stir up the Middle East. Before Donald Trump could get in, they put this guy in to stir up the Middle East. So I would venture to guess our CIA helped put this guy in.
Yeah, well, Brandon, I've been teaching a lot from the book of Genesis and Exodus. And one key verse that keeps coming back It's when the Lord called Abraham out of Ur, and he gave him a promise. He said, Abraham, I'm going to make your name great. I'm going to make your name great. And there's two ways of interpreting that. You can say, well, I'm going to make your name great so that people will look at you and give you a lot of applause. Or it can be interpreted, I'm going to make your character great. And I believe that that's what the Lord meant, because sometime later he would give us his laws at Sinai, which would shape our character. And I think what's needed right now, Brandon, is someone to step up, not in the sense of making their name great for their own sake, but we need someone with decent character. We need someone that gets up and says, this is wrong. This is absolute. I know this is a jargon, but this is crimes against humanity. What is going on? We saw it on October the 7th. And we've said this a number of times, Brandon. I said to you, I'm glad that the whole world is sympathizing with us, but don't hold your breath. It's not going to last very long.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Right.
And here, look at this video.
Let's see what happened.
This is a little girl. Look at this little girl.
هدول الكفور تعرفوا ليش؟ هم يوقفوا لك هدول مشان هذا المرة تبعتوا بدنا نشوف الأولاد وتبعتوا تورجوها لهذيك الأحبة اللي كبتهم وقت كانوا بدها إياهم هذوك إخواتها احتجوا بعرف شغلي معهم.
Yeah. Have you seen that one, Aaron?
I saw that today, Brand. That broke my heart, that one. But, the other thing that may well be needed is Muslim countries that have made peace with Israel, the Abraham Peace Accords. And even remember what happened when with our hostages being released and the babies, the little baby and the 4-year-old that were returned with their throats cut. Even there was a Muslim mufti that got up and said, Hamas has crossed all lines. This is against Islam. That's what we need also. We need Muslim leaders also to stand up and take a stand. And let's see what our government does as well. I don't know. I think over the next few days, something has got to happen. The fact that we hit South Syria when just as Jolani was taking over, I think our leaders will be very, very concerned what is going on. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, we'll pray for the Christians in Syria. That's for sure. They're being hunted. They're absolutely being hunted.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have the breaking news with Aaron tonight that the Kurds have signed a deal with the new Syrian government, and they're going to release a ton of these ISIS prisoners, correct?
Oh, yes. This is like worst nightmare that could happen. And think of all the efforts, intelligence, fact-finding that was needed to arrest all of these ISIS animals. These ISIS, they are the worst of the worst. That's what we saw on October the 7th. That kind of activity. It's demonic. It's pure evil. And that's what's going to be unleashed out on the streets.
Indeed. Aaron, be safe, my friend. LightToTheNationsMinistry.com. And he'll be with us as one of the keynote speakers at our April event. Right, Aaron? in Milwaukee.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to it. Absolutely.
We are as well. Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks, Brandon.
And if you guys want to get registered for that event, it's free, but it's filling fast. You can register at worldviewtube.com/events, worldviewtube.com/events. If you would like to sign up, I think we have a lower third for it. Worldviewtube.com/events. The boys in the control room are very busy right now. A lot going on, folks. Worldview, and we're 2 guys short. We're 2 guys short out of the control room today. One of them, I guess they went to the beach for spring break. I'm like, what? And it's 81 degrees at the beach? Oh, it's 81 degrees in the control room? That's because our AC went out again. But The AC guy's on his way. I'm telling you, folks, it costs a fortune to keep this network afloat. The AC guy's out here all the time because we have so many units. But partly it's because we run the AC in the winter, so they have to put special controls on it so that it won't shut down in the winter, because we have to keep them running even in the winter because the rooms get hot with all those servers in there. So it's not that the equipment's bad. It's just the way the stuff they have to put on it so it allows it to run in the winter. And they have to come and turn those things off so they can heat. Now that it's warm again, they can run. But anyway, so the guys are overworked in there and they're overheated. Worldviewtube.com/events, worldviewtube.com/events. Come join Aaron and myself and Dr. Andy Woods, our Worldview Radio Understanding the Times rally. It is free on Tuesday evening, April 15th, but you must have a ticket, so we'll be sure to have enough seats for everyone. Please, worldviewtube.com/events. All right, folks, before we go to Shahram, take a look at this. Remember to go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. 35 years of my books, ebooks, radio shows, TV shows, audiobooks, documentaries, and more. And not only do you get 35 years of content, much of it, it's timeless because the worldview and the philosophies and the ideas and the biblical truth doesn't change. You also get live stream events like our April event, the one coming up April 15th in Milwaukee. You can live stream it only if you're a Vault member. We're gonna have about 1,000+ people there, and you'll be able to live stream it if you're a Vault member. And you'll be able to live stream our fall conference. Now, we'd love to have you come and attend in person, but if you want to just stay at home, you can live stream the live event with myself, Alex Newman, Sidney Powell, Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen, Gordon Chang. You can live stream it. A lot of benefits to being a member of the Vault. Plus, it's also a big way to help support our general operating budget. We have to do all these things to bring in the 40,000 plus a month we need, okay? Worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. Consider joining right now. And while we're on it, why not go over to Worldview store, worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. This is where you can register for our fall conference. And we only have 350 seats, folks. That's all we got. 350 seats is all we got to come hear these great speakers in the Mid-South, right outside of Memphis, about 30 minutes from the airport. Nice, upper scale neighborhood community. It's where we live. And great restaurants, great hotels. All the details are there at worldviewstore.com. The tickets are available, $99. We even lowered the price this year. We got our cost down by moving it here to the Mid-South, and we're passing the savings on to you. Now, if you're a Vault member, you can stay at home and live stream it. But I think a lot of you are going to want to meet Gordon Chang and Sidney Powell, because our speakers are great about being right there during the breaks for you to walk up to, get your picture with them, talk with them, have them sign a book. They love to stand at their tables and sign books and visit with you guys. So there's something about being here in person with these guys, and we'd love to see a lot of you again and meet some of you for the first time when you attend our national conference, October 3rd and 4th, worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. And again, if you click on it, it's going to bring up all the details and the hotels we recommend. And by the way, I heard from one of our viewers that the Courtyard Marriott's running a special right now. Right now, the rates are like really cheap. So you might consider making your hotel reservations now at the Courtyard Marriott as well, okay? That is, again, right here in Collierville. It's a very nice Courtyard Marriott, okay? All right, so worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. All right, joining me now is Shahram Hadian. We had Shahram and Aaron on radio today, and I wanted to have Shahram back tonight because I just can't... I don't think we can focus on this enough. All these Christians being murdered in Syria. And not only do we have Christians being murdered in Syria, but folks, take a look at this. Go to worldviewreport.com, your daily aggregated news site, worldviewreport.com. Look at this one. New Jersey, first Islamic city. Muslim politicians seize power in Patterson, declare it the capital of Palestine in America, raising Islamic flags and advance Sharia. Joining me now is Shahram Hadian of tillministry.com. Shahram, when you implement Sharia, how well is that going to go for the churches and the ministries and Christians and the Jews there in New Jersey?
Well, not well, because we know from both Islamic history, Brandon, and Islamic text that at first, when Muslims go to what we call the upper house, the house of Islam, at first, they begin to put pressure on the... Now remember, these are the same Christians that they were living in community with, where early on, they're telling them we have so much in common, we can coexist, right?
Right.
Then when they get to a place where they take over a city, like they've done now in Paterson, New Jersey, or in Hamtramck, Michigan, or in Josephine, Texas, when you and I covered this a couple of weeks ago with the 400-acre project there by our, I'm being facetious, buddy Yasser Qadi, they then begin to put pressure. They then begin to have to tell the truth to the non-Muslims, including the Christians, that look, Islam is going to take over. So it's a matter of time. So initially it's sort of a subjugation. Christians then begin to act as second class because now they've been subjugated. And they become very fearful to speak out against Islam. They become very fearful to say anything negative because the Muslims are controlling that city. Eventually, what it will lead to is what we have seen in Western Europe, is then the non-Muslims will be either forced out, so they will then have to flee that area, or they will be starting to get attacked. And the women will start getting raped. The homosexuals will get attacked. The minorities will get attacked. And pretty soon you're going to see probably some killings happening under the guise of what we call honor killing or honor to defend Islam. That is what it is history. This is not speculation, Brandon. This is history. This is the pattern of Islam. This is exactly what their prophet did. And ironically, this is the month of Ramadan. Muslims are in the month of Ramadan until March 29th, Brandon, which is supposed to be the month of fasting and peace and tolerance. Yet, what are we seeing? Every year during this month, we see an increase of violence towards non-Muslims. We see an uptick, a massive uptick of violence towards non-Muslims, as we are seeing right now in Syria. And the future of Paterson, the future of Hamtramck, the future of Josephine, the future of Minnesota, Minneapolis, and St. Cloud, the future is subjugation to Islam and violence at the hands of Islam. That is a guarantee. It's not even speculation. Oh, by the way, one more thing. Why did Donald Trump appoint Amir Ghalib, the mayor of Hamtramck, the Muslim mayor of Hamtramck, to ambassadorship to Kuwait? What is owed now to the Muslims in this administration is very concerning to me.
And we also have news tonight. Aaron was on earlier. The big news there tonight was the Kurds, who are American allies, have just signed a ceasefire agreement with Giuliani, and the Kurds have thousands of ISIS prisoners. So I guess they're going to release those. He says Iraq is going to get attacked by Giuliani now. Giuliani's going to attack Iraq now.
Yeah.
So it sounds like things are going to start spinning out of control even more than they are in the Middle East. Shahram?
Absolutely, absolutely. This ceasefire agreement basically is saying that now the government of Giuliani, which is, let's not forget, this is HTS, right? This is
ISIS.
This is ISIS. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which is the HTS, is a splinter group of ISIS, of Al-Qaeda, backed by the CIA. Let's not forget, funded by the previous administration, by the CIA, as we were funding ISIS back before under Obama. So the CIA was funding them in order to fight Bashar al-Assad. Now they've gotten rid of Bashar al-Assad. Now Turkey comes in. Turkey is the backbone of Giuliani. Giuliani is basically a mouthpiece for Turkey, in my opinion. And now what have they done? They've now taken northeastern Syria, because in essence, the Kurds are making the ceasefire so they don't get massacred. In my opinion, that's why they're doing it. They're committing this ceasefire so they don't get massacred. They're going to be subjugated now. This is going to be a government now that is consolidated power under Giuliani. And next, as you said, is Western Iraq, north and western part of Iraq, which is the Kurdish area. This is bad news for Syria, bad news for the Middle East, bad news for Israel. Iran is out, Russia is out, and Turkey has taken over. And once again, Brandon, we predicted it. We said this is going to happen. When we meddle in these things, when we fund when we fund Islamists or jihadists, and we think it's going to go well, it never goes well, and blood is on our hands when I say, this government of America now, because those same Islamic army under HTS is the ones who are killing the Christians and the Alawites, which are they're sort of deemed as a sect of Islam that is not accepted by the Sunnis.
Why are they not accepted?
They're not accepted because they do not ascribe to to Sunni Islam. They tend to be a little bit more of an offshoot of Shia Islam, and these are the Alawites are very, very small percentage, and they tend to be believing in early verses. They don't want to follow the abrogated Islam. They don't want to follow the example of the Prophet. They call themselves Muslims, but they're really—
Do they not want to be involved in jihad? Are you saying they don't want to be involved?
They don't want to be involved. Exactly. They were part of Bashar al-Assad's army. They were, but they were the ones who were, remember, protecting the Christians. So under Bashar al-Assad, the Christians in Syria were being protected, and now we've got—
And why? Why is that? Why? That's not something we say very often here. That's not something we get to say because it doesn't usually happen. A Muslim group protecting Christians. Why?
Because they're not following Islam. Because they're not following the upper house Islam. Now, by the way, in my opinion, they're not Muslims, because if they're not following all of the Quran, all of the entirety of their teaching and the example of their prophet, according to Islam, they're considered hypocrites and unbelievers. So that's why they're being killed.
Okay, that's exactly where I was hoping you'd go. So
yes.
I don't know where it was a few years ago, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago. There was some beach overseas, and there was a bunch of people from Great Britain on the beach enjoying their holiday. And a gunman with like an AR-15 or something came up the beach and started killing them. And some of the Muslim workers from the hotel surrounded the holiday beachgoers who were from like Great Britain or somewhere and said to the Muslim, "You're not going to kill them." And what we said then is, what people need to understand is these people were not practicing full Islam. They'd be very much like your dad,
yes,
who got your family out of Iran 6 weeks before the fall of the Shah. But your dad called himself a Muslim. Your mom called herself a Muslim. But your dad was a beer-drinking, pork-eating Muslim. He wasn't really practicing. It's like Baptists that call themselves Baptists that go to church on Easter and Christmas, and that's it. Or Catholics that go on Christmas and Easter. They're not really practicing. Is that what's going on with this group in Syria?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is exactly, and there are very small sects of Islam. Some are called the Sufi, the Ahmadiyya. Here you have the Alawites that are in Syria. Again, they are non-practicing because they reject the abrogation. They reject the latter verses. But see, Brandon, if you reject the latter verses, you have to reject Muhammad, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why the Alawites are now saying to, as you see on the screen there, to Israel, please save us because we are not of them. They're trying to say we're not of them. Well, the reality is you're not Islam. You're not Muslim. You may claim to be Muslim, but you're not truly Islamic because you can't reject the abrogation and then claim that you are Islamic because Muhammad is the only one who got revelation of Islam, and he's the one who claims that the abrogation happened. He's the one who claims that the latter verses like Surah chapter 9 that says be harsh to the people, fight the people of the book, Jews and Christians, be harsh to them, persecute them, make them suffer, and kill them if necessary. They say, well, we reject that. We just want to coexist. As you said, the perfect example was my dad. He was a career military officer. He claimed to be Muslim, but yet he was not practicing Islam, which is why he got us out of Iran, because he didn't want to live under Sharia. He knew what it was going to be like, and he didn't want to live under an Islamic theocracy, but he is not consistent with Islamic teaching, just like the Alawites. And that's why the Sunni HTS under Jolani, this Islamic army, is killing them as well as the Christians because they are apostate. They are not considered true Muslims. That's the true Islam that is doing the killing. the Sunni power, the Shia power in Iran. They are representing the true Islam, not a very, very, very small sect that claim to be Muslims. And Bashar al-Assad, just like I mentioned earlier when we were on radio, like Saddam Hussein, yes, they're dictators. Yes, they're not good men. But fundamentally, they believed in secular governance. And as you're playing these videos of these jihadists that are laughing, and by the way, I said earlier, these guys are all high, by the way. We have to understand, these guys do drugs to get high. It's demonic.
By the way, the Nazis did that. The Nazis were taking amphetamines to get all jacked up to go out and kill the Jews.
Because you can't do this. You can't do this so indiscriminately if you're not so, number one, demonically being inspired, and number two, so consciously, your conscience is so seared, and they're so high. That's why they're laughing. That's why you see that they think this is joyful that they've gone, and the videos that you see where they're making people walk like dogs, bark like dogs, and then they shoot them to utterly humiliate them. One can only look at this and say this is pure evil. Yes, it's pure evil, but it is motivated by the hatred and the ideology that comes from Islam. And so please don't defend Islam, folks, by saying, oh, you see, the Muslims are being killed, so these jihadists are not really Muslims. No, it's the other way around. It's what we explained to you. They're being killed because they are not the true Muslims, and the jihadists are the true Muslims. They're the purest representation of what Muhammad himself did and what Islam does. And I go back to the silence. Where are the Christians? Where are the churches? And where is even our government to make strong statements condemning and saying this has got to stop? The pressure right now has got to be put on all the Arab nations, including Turkey, to stop this immediatthis is systematic ethnic cleansing and genocide.
Look at this. Again, I know, I'm sorry, guys, it's graphic. We've showed it with Aaron a while ago. I'm going to show it again. This is what's going on over there. Okay? I guess they're mocking by putting him on a cross and then blowing his brains out. I can't assume that that obviously has to be them mocking him, right? By doing that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So they're mocking the Christians. And look, one thing that unfortunately, Brandon, Islam has been good at, and we know it's satanic, we know it's a spiritual battle, is they're very good at coming up with new ways of killing Christians and killing non-Muslims, in this case, the Christians. We saw years ago in cages. We saw burning. We saw of course, the beheading has been very common. But now putting them on a cross and mocking them because they're Christians. Remember that ISIS, specifically in their Dabiq magazine that they come out with, very clearly said that they have waged war against the cross. So how much more, by the way, we talked about earlier about Justin Peters, who I think you have that clip about him saying Islam is not a spiritual threat. Yes. How much more of a spiritual threat can Islam be when they say our war is against the cross? Can it be any more of a spiritual enemy, of a spiritual danger?
100%. And in fact, for those who doubt, maybe give a little backdrop for those who don't know. A video from 2017 from Justin Peters. Give the backdrop of why he is saying this, how he's really just going after you and me and Usama. Maybe give a backdrop for those who don't know. Yeah,
well, the backdrop was, again, and we're not trying to beat a dead horse, but we've been warning about this, and that's why we're bringing it up, is that the backdrop was that when James White, who is kind of part of that crowd, the hyper-Calvinist crowd, he was engaged in an interfaith dialogue with a Jew-hating, Holocaust-denying, Muslim brotherhood.
Hitler defending jihadi preaching imam who said you can take the property of the Christians and the Jews in jihad. You take the property.
That's right. Calling the Jews crooked nose. We're talking about none other than Yasser Qadi, who is now behind this project in Josephine, Texas, the 402-acre epic city, the Islamic city, largest Islamic city if it's built in American history. So when we try to reach out to James White privately and then also publicly to say what you did was unbiblical practice, there's no such thing as an interfaith dialogue. with another ideology that denies Christ. We brought him verses like 2 John. He denied it. He said it was not for today. Well, Justin Peters came to his defense by saying what James White did in a church with Yasser
In my
Qadhi,
backyard.
in your backyard, who he let's not forget, Brandon, he said about Yasser Qadhi, this man is my mentor. What I have learned about Islam, I learned from him. So I want you to listen to him. So here's a Christian apologist, according to his own definition, James White, who is telling Christians in the audience, listen to this Jew-hating, Holocaust-denying, Muslim Brotherhood operative Yasser Qadhi. We call
Which
that
is Hamas. Muslim Brotherhood is Hamas. So think October 7th.
That's right. So we rightly called it out. We rightly called him to repent. We rightly called him to go back to biblical evangelism. Justin Peters comes out in defense and makes the following video where he's going to say that in no way, shape, or form is Islam a spiritual threat to any Christian by saying that we were saying, which was false, that a true born-again Christian can be converted to a false ideology.
Which we never said that.
Which we never said that. We
So
said
they're putting up a straw man argument to change the debate and say, oh, they're debating this, and this is why they're wrong. We weren't debating that. So they couldn't win the debate, which we were having, that you just explained. So they deceived the public, I believe, by saying, oh, well, these guys are saying that Christians are going to walk away from the faith and follow Islam, and implied that somehow, therefore, Islam is not a threat to the church, which we never said that. So again, they set up a false debate because they couldn't win the one that we were actually having. And not only that, they then went to personal attacks, because they couldn't win on the facts, so they went toward personal attacks, including doxing my home, even though they knew that gunman from Saudi Arabia had come into where you and I were speaking in Sioux Falls and was arrested, had 7 months in federal prison, doxing where I go to church. And then after I had to leave that church, then they got on social media and said, House doesn't go to church. And then they said, we have someone in the Mid-South monitoring him, and he doesn't go to church. So how creepy is that? These guys claiming they have a source in my community monitoring my movements and that I don't go to church after I had to leave the church because they doxed where I went to church, and I didn't want to put that church at risk because we just had a gunman from Saudi Arabia come in on video, and it made CBS Los Angeles, Daily Mail UK. It was all over the place, and the guy did 7 months in federal prison. This is how can I say it? This is how used of Satan these people are. That's my opinion. Absolutely. I'm sticking to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Brandon. But first of all, you and I would never, ever, ever wish or do the same tactic as a born-again Christian, a spirit-filled. I may disagree with James White. I may disagree with Justin Peters, but I would never wish, if they are truly brethren in the Lord, I would never wish harm on them. I would never put them in a situation. Yet they put you and I in these situations. They doxed your family, where you live, knowing, as you said, that we've have had multiple threats that we have turned over to the FBI. You and I have gotten letters of threats
throwing
of
acid,
killing our families,
throwing acid on us.
Yep, in our faces, raping our wives, killing our children, and we turned those over to the FBI. And yet these irresponsible supposed shepherds of God, again, you said earlier, they may by their actions be proving to be more hirelings than shepherds, if we look at the definition of John chapter 10, not only could not at all stand up to the argument and biblically defend the practice of what they were doing and what James White did as an unbiblical practice, engaging with an antichrist spirit. Again, 1 John 2, 1 John 4, 2 John that we brought up. The only argument James White has was 2 John is not for today. It does not apply to the church today. What? Are you kidding me? You've now taken out of Scripture an entire chapter. That's your only argument, attack. And then Justin Peters, in again defense, said the following. I don't know if you have
I'll play the video. Here it is.
Here it is, that Islam is not in any way a spiritual threat to Christians.
Islam does not pose a threat to the church. My sheep hear me. My sheep hear my voice. I know my sheep. My sheep know me. I know my sheep. They will not follow another. They will not follow the voice of a stranger. Read John chapter 10, all throughout John chapter 10. There is not going to be, this possibility, this scenario will never happen. There will never be a Christian sitting in any venue, I don't care what it is, in any venue, listening to someone expound upon Islam and say, oh, wow, that is really compelling. I think I'm going to follow Muhammad. That's not going to happen. That's a theological impossibility.
And by the way, we never said that. So he's throwing up a false argument and debate that we never had because they couldn't win the debate they were having. So now all of a sudden they throw this one up. But let's continue.
Could they pose a threat physically? Sure. Not spiritually. Not spiritually. It's not going to happen.
Wow. Not going to happen. See, is there anything else? Let's see. All right. So it's not a spiritual threat. Yet you and I are seeing that, of course, the Bible tells us in Ephesians 6 that all of this is a spiritual battle, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
I would say there's a physical threat, but you cannot undermine the fact that this is spiritual at its very being. Remember Daniel. Daniel's praying for help, right? And the angel finally shows up like 21 days later. He's like, your prayer was heard from the first day, but I encountered this demon of Persia overseeing, I guess, Iran, right? And so if that doesn't show us that this whole thing is a spiritual battle and a spiritual threat, I mean, it's so ludicrous to somehow separate the spiritual from the natural. And yet that's what people do, sadly, in the Christian world. They separate the spiritual and the natural, right? Here's our spiritual duty and here's our natural duty. And this is what they did in Germany. Our spiritual duty is to God. Our political duty is to the state. Never shall the two meet. And they start dividing their worldview between the physical or the natural and the spiritual. You can't separate them. But I would say that the church being murdered, members of the church, real believers being murdered in Syria, I would venture to guess they see that as a literal spiritual satanic attack and is a spiritual threat. That's why they're hiding. It's a physical threat, but it's a spiritual threat because they realize the ones empowered to do this at a spiritual level are demonic entities. So how could anyone say it's not a spiritual threat unless you're I don't even know. I'm going to try to be nice.
Unless you're spiritually deceived yourself. I'll say it for you, Brandon. I mean, that they're spiritually deceived themselves. Listen, Justin Peters uses John 10, correct? That's his argument. My sheep know my voice. They hear my voice. And yet, Jesus doesn't stop there, Justin. Jesus goes on to say, however, then there are hirelings who are wolves who are coming in, and when the wolves come in, they flee. They abandon the sheep.
That's spiritual and physical talk together.
Exactly. So you're giving a poor context of John chapter 10. Then he's not dealing with all the warnings in the New Testament, both from Jesus himself in Matthew 24, that says that one of the signs of the last days is take heed no one deceives you, and of multiple warnings of the Apostle Paul that there is going to be a falling away. By the way, I can tell you, you know how many families I've talked to, Brandon, you've talked to, where they say, you know, our children grew up in the church. Our children were following Jesus. Then they went to college, met some Muslim guy, and my daughter then converted to Islam. Now, obviously, we would say then there was probably not evidence that they were ever saved.
But it's still a spiritual threat.
But it's a spiritual threat. And so what about those stories, Justin? But see, I believe that what Justin was doing is he was more concerned about protecting the clan, protecting the good old boys club. Because
and by the way, you'll notice that after he attacked us, all of a sudden Phil Johnson and John MacArthur started having him to their venue. You know, he'd been speaking with us until he went, I think, apostate, what I think he's gone. And then when he did, and by the way, because I think he has a false gospel, is hyper-Calvinism. These guys have a false gospel. False gospel. You know, it's funny that he runs around exposing false teachers when he is himself a false teacher, by the way. I believe he is theologically, right? I think he just showed it.
Absolutely.
Dr. Andy Woods is the pastor, a theologian, an attorney, and the president of a seminary. He read one of Justin's books, said based on the horrific hermeneutics that the guy could hardly teach scripture in context, he said he couldn't get through my seminary. We would fail him with, he just told me that this weekend on the phone. He said the way that guy handled the scripture in one of his books was so bad. He said, I could do a series of shows showing you how not to handle the scripture. So isn't it ironic that he wants to make his career exposing false teachers when I think he is one now?
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
feel free to disagree with me.
No. You're absolutely correct. He is a false teacher, just as James White has become a false teacher for multiple reasons. Just like we can say, as you said, I think that 5-point Calvinism, hyper-Calvinism, is false teaching.
Absolutely.
It is another gospel.
Absolutely.
Just as we would say that Kingdom Now theology, where they're promoting that we're in the kingdom reign, is a false gospel. It is not accurate to the true interpretation of Scripture, a biblical hermeneutical approach to Scripture and understanding the different aspects of dispensation or outpouring of God. And this is never to say that we believe there's a different salvation for the Jews, but a different plan. Brandon, ultimately this comes down to a connection. The connection is always this. When these Christians or professing Christians get Islam wrong, Islam is the greatest antichrist spirit on the planet, close to 2 billion people, and what we obviously deal with so much in our ministry is the presentation of a false gospel to Muslims through interfaith, multi-faith. Now the fact that they're teaching Abrahamic faith, that Islam is an Abrahamic faith, meaning that it all comes from the God of Abraham, which is false. Now that many are going down this road of what's called Christian Palestinianism, where we want to be able to teach that Jesus was really a Palestinian and not Jewish. It's all a perversion of the gospel. When they get this wrong, they also then get confused on Israel. So the silence right now from the camps of within the church, within the churches, that have been bashing Israel, calling Israel occupiers, saying that Israel are ethnically cleansing the Arabs in Gaza or Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, or in Israel. When you can't be ethnically cleansing, Brandon, when their numbers have grown. If you have 2 million Arabs living in Israel, how can you be ethnically cleansing them when they're living in your country and they have they're members of parliament and they have a voting right? Whereas what's happening in Syria right now is systematic ethnic cleansing. It is absolutely genocide. It is the beginning, I should say, of genocide. And yet, what do we hear? Silence. We don't hear the strong voices. Where is Justin Peters? Where is James White? Where are they right now coming out and condemning the atrocities that are being handled, that are being carried out at the hands of fundamentalist jihadists like Yasser Qadi? By the way, Yasser Qadi is no different than, I'm going to make a strong statement, Yasser Qadi is no different than the jihadist army of Jolani in Syria. The only difference is he's not yet in the upper house in America. Yasser Qadi would be giving the same message that the mosques in Syria are giving right now, that are encouraging this jihad. The mosques right now are promoting this jihad out of the mosques that are in Syria right now, telling people they need to get rid of these kafirs, these unbelievers in Syria. Yasser Qadi, Brandon, will be preaching the same message in America if he can get away with it. He's just not there yet.
And yet, Phil Johnson, James White, Justin Peters, John MacArthur, all defended what was going on. And his elders, John MacArthur's elders, when we contacted them based on the behavior of Phil Johnson, who's one of their elders, attacking my family, him and his staff doxing us, some of the Grace to You, one of the Grace to You employees taking part. His elders in their letterhead said, don't contact us anymore. Isn't it interesting? They didn't want to do it biblically, number one. Number two, we didn't hear word one about Yasser Qadi. They attacked us, but I don't remember them ever saying, wait a minute, this guy, Yasser Qadi, he hates the Jews, is a Jew-hating, Holocaust-denying, Hitler-defending jihadi imam. Oh, my. I mean, this guy's crazy. Why would James White sit with this guy? No. And then you start seeing Justin Peters, I guess, is his reward. I don't know. All of a sudden, he's thicker than thieves with those guys. You know, but you know what? Birds of a feather flock together. So, you know, apostates associate with apostates. I'm sticking to it. Theologically, these guys have a different gospel. They have a different message. You know, the Bible says if they come to you preaching another gospel, let them be accursed, an anathema. Right?
That's right. That's right. Twice, Paul says, not just once. Twice he says in that passage, let them be accursed. if they have come bearing another gospel than what we have already brought you. The book of Jude says, right, that look, it's our koinos salvation. It's our common salvation. It ought to be known to you. But then yet, what does the book of Jude go on to do? It warns about apostasy. It warns about the falling away. It warns about the false teachers that he said, like men, they've crept in unnoticed, and from long ago, they were destined for destruction. For long ago, they're within the church. They're claiming to be, good teachers, but they're false teachers. So give me a break, Justin. The Bible is full of warnings that any false ideology is a threat to the.
But you know what? You're 100% right. And of course, these guys spend their time running around going after Kenneth Copeland, Benny Hinn, and Paula White. Now, I don't agree with any of their theologies, and I've exposed it. But I'm sorry, that's low-hanging fruit.
Exactly.
That's third grade level, okay?
That's it.
These guys, the problem is these guys aren't theologically sound enough, mentally developed enough, biblically developed enough to take on a demonic institution like Islam. I don't think they're theologically, intellectually, mentally capable of taking on Islam, because you got to be a real student, which is we saw James White cave like a cheap shirt, when it comes to Islam. So these guys are showing that they're not the kind of men. These are not masculine men, okay? These are not theologically masculine men either. And of course, so they have to go around and pick the low-hanging fruit of Paula White. Well, if that's, again, I'm not a fan of Paula and I've exposed her theology, but if that's your idea, you're defending Christianity, but you actually want to cave to Islam, well, you're just proving, what theological lightweights they really are.
Absolutely, and I would add to that what we said back then. I think that James White has been co-opted, as you and I proved back then. And in fact, you remember back then, many of the jihadists online were coming out and saying that James White is now basically our tool. He's now opened many doors for us to the evangelical world.
Yes.
So they used him. They used him as a tool. They used him as a foolish man, as you said, as a weak man. When it came time, he didn't defend the gospel. When it came time, and he sits there and says that this man is my mentor, listen to him. And remember, he went on subsequently in 2019 at another one of their conferences, one of their Together for the Gospel conferences, and said that people like you and me are Islamophobes.
That's right.
He used the term that Muslims use to shut everybody up, calling you and I, his Christian brethren, Islamophobes. That's slander, Brandon. And by the way, in Islam, that's a death sentence, right? Because if you're considered to be slandering Islam in a Muslim country or in a Muslim-controlled country, they'll kill you. So this is how they operate. They're showing themselves by their fruit.
And now we've come full circle. And that's the reason we're covering this. So now we've come full circle. We're seeing Christians by the thousands being murdered in Syria. Yeah. And we said that, I'm sorry, James White, when you said, Yasser Qadi, when persecution comes, the Christians and the Muslims will have to stand together. I mean, that was a stupid line, right? And we see how well is that going for the Christians, right? Exactly. And so it's not. It's not. And so we've come full circle. The church in America is largely silent because they've been sold the lie that has been defended by the likes of the men we've mentioned, that interfaith dialogue's okay, that this is evangelism, that Islam is not a spiritual threat, and the church in America, by and large, is infiltrated and absolutely confused and schizophrenic. And now we're saying, after 8 years, we warned this day was coming, and we said back then, 8 years ago, when we got attacked for simply exposing an interfaith dialogue with a Jew-hating, Holocaust-denying, Hitler-defending, jihad-preaching imam, we said, that's fine, do that. You expose yourself. That's great. Because these guys, by the way, lost a lot of following. A lot of these guys lost a lot of following because I had some of their biggest donors now start coming over to be ours or write me, I'm done giving checks to this guy, this guy, this guy. I'm like, yeah, well, that might be a smart idea unless you want to support something I think that's not being used of the Lord. So good decision. But we said, when we start seeing Christians being slaughtered by Muslims, we'll have to loop back around and remind these guys that the Muslims, they're not there defending. Other than those small group that are not real Muslims, the real Muslims are murdering them, not defending them, and Islam is a spiritual threat. So I'm sorry we had to loop back around after 8 years, but today was the day, sadly. And sadly, again, the church is being silent because guys like this for 8 years, I think, have infiltrated and penetrated the church and confused the living daylights out of them. Closing comment?
You're absolutely correct, Brandon. Unfortunately, it has come full circle. It will come full circle again because Islam remains probably the greatest spiritual threat to the advancement of the gospel, to the fulfillment of the Great Commission. It is the greatest threat on the planet. And subsequently, not only in Syria, but again, mark these words, it's coming to a neighborhood near you in America. Because as I said earlier, once they build their cities, like in Josephine, Texas, and Patterson, New Jersey, and Hamtramck, Michigan, and once they get their power, then watch out what they'll start doing. And we'll come back to it again, Brandon. We're going to be having this conversation again when the persecution happens in America. And then these guys go, wait a second, I thought the Muslims were going to hold our hands. I thought they were going to help us. Russell Moore, let's help them build their mosque so they can help us. I thought they were going to help us. And they'll come to find out, oh boy, what fools we have been.
Yep.
But unfortunately, by then it'll be too late as far as for those communities. But we got to pray right now for, first of all, the protection of these Christians, and even the the Muslims that are not the real Muslims, the Alawites. We got to pray for their protection. We got to pray for some voice to come from America. I'm praying right now that this administration, the Trump administration, would come out much stronger. In fact,
actually, something's going on because we have word right now and footage right now of airstrikes in the last few hours in Syria.
I wonder if that's Israel.
I'm being told it is.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's what Aaron said earlier, right? That they feel like they have no choice.
So I'm being told that is Israel, that the IDF is hitting them.
Yeah.
So, in fact, Aaron says 9 Israeli airstrikes on Syria. He just
there you go.
Me. He just
there you go.
Me.
So once again, for all the Jew-bashing, Jew-hating people out there, the only country that is right now coming to the aid of Christians in the Middle East is Israel.
So Carlson, would Tucker Carlson consider himself a Christian?
Yes, he would consider himself a Christian.
Candace Owens,
like Candace Owens.
Would she consider herself a Christian?
Catholic.
Yeah. Stu Peters, wouldn't they all consider themselves Christians?
Absolutely.
Oh, wait a minute.
Absolutely.
And it's the Jews that are coming to the defense of the Christians in Syria.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. So actions speak louder than all their accusations, all their Jew-hating, Jews this and Jews that, and listen, they don't rightly divide things. You and I have been critical of the Israeli government at times. You and I have been critical of the secular so-called Jews or the Talmudic Jews. In fact, right before I came on air with you again, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who was asking this question. Candace Owens, Stu Peters, Tucker Carlson, they're being confused by Catholicism. They've all jumped into the Catholic camp. That's why they're getting so confused. But yet they'll bash Israel all day long. But look at the fruit. Look at the actions. Israel is the one who is standing in the gap and saying, we'll go and protect the Christians. And we'll go protect the Alawites and the Druze. Actions speak louder than words. That's why we stand and support the right of the Jewish people to their defense, to the land, because though they may not yet have their eyes open to the Messiah, they are trying to righteously stand for Christians.
And many of them may. The Bible says many of them are going to become such a number of Jews becoming believers in Yeshua. The Bible says you can hardly count them, Jews and Gentiles. So again, I say be patient with our Jewish friends. Many of them could become some of the greatest evangelists, actually sealed with a mark and a spiritual protection. Isn't that interesting? If Islam is not a spiritual threat, why do they have to be sealed from spiritually and physically during the tribulation? Those 144 are sealed, which shows you there's a physical and a spiritual threat. You can't divide those two.
You cannot divide the two. Well said, Brandon. Exactly. There's no division of it. It is one and the same, a spiritual threat. I'll give you one last example.
By the way, wasn't that the Gnostics? Weren't the Gnostics big on saying what happens in the natural world doesn't expect my spiritual? Are these guys preaching a Calvinistic Gnosticism?
They absolutely are. They absolutely are. And the example that I was going to give you, I was a police officer, right? I dealt with a lot of individuals that I have no doubt were demonic, right? That there was a demonic possession in them. I arrested a lot of people. They're high, they're on drugs, there's demons, they're manifesting. They're literally shouting and spewing demonic things out of their mouths. But here's the reality. I have to understand in that moment, there is first a spiritual threat. Because if I take that person who I know is spiritually being possessed, that person can harm me, that person can kill me. So I have to first subdue the physical and then deal with the spiritual. They are both interconnected. You cannot separate them. And a fool, only a fool would say that there's a separation, that there's no spiritual threat. And today I think we've demonstrated once again, these individuals are fools, and they're demonstrating by their silence and their apathy for their brothers and sisters in Christ. They'll defend the Muslims, but they won't defend the Christians. Where are they?
Wow.
Where are their voices?
Well said. Well said. Tillministry.com, TILministry.com. You'll find all of his resources, books, and you can even book him to come speak to your Bible study, your homeschool group, your church, TILministry.com. And we also carry his show on Saturday and Sundays right here at Worldview Tube, TILministry.com. Thank you, Sharam.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. God bless you guys.
You too, my friends. Folks, pray for those folks, both the non-Muslim Muslims and the Christians in Syria tonight. Wow. Look, folks, you appreciate what we're doing. We need your support. WorldviewTube.com/sponsors, WorldviewTube.com/sponsors. There they all are. You can find them there. You know how great these products are. We use them over and over. Many of you have asked for one place to put all of the sponsors in one place. You can find them. There they are. WorldviewTube.com/sponsors. WorldviewTube.com/sponsors. Of course, one of the most powerful ways you can support us is by going to our foundation, WorldviewFoundation.com, WorldviewFoundation.com. This entire network is built on my 35 years of doing this, folks. We have a long track record, and we're not easily taken off course, even when we're attacked by Marxist, Islamist, or even when we're attacked by a religious Trojan horse, as we have been again and again. So our greatest attack has come from so-called Christians and Christian groups that I believe are religious Trojan horses. And of course, as I discussed in my Bible study last night, Satan doesn't hate religion. He loves using religion. As Vance Havner said, the devil's not fighting religion. He's producing a counterfeit Christianity so much like the real thing that good Christians are afraid to speak out against it. And indeed, there is a false religious system in America today that will defend Islam and will attack those who are trying to expose Islam and interfaith dialogue and Marxism and social justice and open borders. Folks, we need your support. We're one of the few groups that are willing to take a stand, and we don't care how much we're attacked. We wear it as a badge of honor. WorldviewFoundation.com, WorldviewFoundation.com. Please check it out, WorldviewFoundation.com. Joining me now is Dr. Lucky. Hey, Dr. Lucky, looks like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is under attack. There's an article out there on Yahoo that says, this is the headline: the simple food swap that can lower your risk of dying from any cause by 17%. Here's what experts recommend instead. There's popular mantra frequently heard on social media: butter makes everything better. Americans have apparently taken that to heart, eating about 6.5 pounds of butter per person a year. But new research suggests that butter enthusiasts may want to cut back. It could help them live longer, and it goes on from there. Some are saying that they're concerned about the timing of this, and if some of this isn't really meant to, try to confuse the public as RFK Jr. is setting about to do the work of trying to make America healthy again. I sent the article over to you. Did you have a chance to read it? And if so, what are your thoughts?
I did not have a chance to read it, but I've got some thoughts on it, Brandon, to be honest with you. It's interesting that they'll go back and forth from salt is bad for you, salt is good for you, butter is bad for you, butter is good for you, beef tallow, good for you, not good for you. And it's interesting because it seems to, for me, they're attacking RFK because they know what he's bringing to the table, which is getting us back, getting Maha, right? Making America healthy again. And for me, we use Kerrygold butter, not trying to put a company out there, but it's grass-fed natural butter. And that's what my family uses. And we feel good about that.
Why does your family consume butter? What do you think are the benefits of consuming butter?
Well, when you take a look at first of all, it's natural, right? grass fed, no chemicals added to it. And then when you take a look at, it's going to be great for your health. It's going to be great for your body. I have done this for many years, believe it or not. People are like, are you serious? I take coffee, a scoop of butter, and a scoop of coconut oil, and I'll mix that together in the morning and have that. That gives me good fats for the morning. It gets my brain functioning, and that coffee gives me a little bit of a kick.
Yeah, I love my coffee. You're kidding? All right. My wife has been taking Bella Trim now, and she's been researching this, okay? And over the weekend, she briefed me over Bella Trim, and she said, Brandon, we have really got to promote this because people don't understand this isn't just about a comprehensive weight management, and there's 6 clinical trials behind it. She says it will help regulate your blood glucose levels. It will lower bad cholesterol, helps normalize your blood pressure. Overall, it's good for your cardiac health, improves your microbe, and has prebiotics, and it lowers inflammation. She said there's a lot of science behind this, and she's been taking it, and she loves how it curbs her appetite. It also is known for, I guess, going after stubborn belly fat that is known it is tied to menopause. So my wife was reading up on all this and said, Brandon, there are a lot of ladies in the audience who would want to know about this. She takes it every day, but she said, but not only the benefit of not getting, the hungries, the munchies, she went through all the other regulation of like your blood glucose levels. Can you speak to this, all of these points that she wrote me a handwritten, I got my homework here from Melissa saying, you got to mention these things. She said, I'm so impressed with the Bella Grace products.
Well, first of all, as we've mentioned multiple times, your wife is very smart, just like mine. We have smart women in our lives.
Correct.
Second of all, Bella Trim was made by nature, proven by science. Our formulator put together cinnamon, chromium picolinate, what they call FOS and GOS, which are your prebiotics. And then the last ingredient was metabolate. And metabolate is a combination of lemon verbena and red hibiscus. That's what's got the studies, got 6 international awards behind metabolate. And it does exactly what you said it does. It regulates blood sugar. It helps you with weight management, helps you with the heart health, brain and mental health. And it also helps you with your gut health. So this formula does so many things. And if I could take a couple of seconds and tell you, first of all, as you mentioned, the hunger hormones, those hunger hormones are ghrelin and leptin. This Bella Trim lowers your ghrelin hormone. Ghrelin is what makes you feel hungry. And when people are eating these diet foods, when people are eating aspartame and NutraSweet and these foods in the middle aisles, this is what causes that ghrelin to go up. Even though they think they're doing a great job, they're not. The ghrelin goes up, they get hungry, causes them to eat more of those foods. Well, Bella Trim lowers the ghrelin, but raises the leptin. And the leptin is the hunger or the hormone that makes you feel full. So while it does lower your ghrelin, which makes you feel hungry, it raises your leptin, makes you feel full. It's a great product because it's going to help you support that blood pressure, support the blood sugar, lower cortisol. It's going to send information through what they call the AMPK pathway. That's a pathway that goes right to the mitochondria. And remember, we've talked about this before. Mitochondria is where you make energy. And when you can make more energy cleanly, you're going to have a better existence. You're going to have your metabolism is going to go up, and it's going to help you burn more fat.
All right, so let's go to help normalize your blood pressure.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so whenever you can raise that metabolism up, and you can your body's working better, it's going to help you lower that blood pressure from just a standpoint of you're eating a cleaner diet, you're eating better diet, your prebiotics, those things that we talked about earlier, FOS and GOS, that's also going to help you have that brain gut axis, that information going back and forth. All these things are going to be really important for you to lower that blood pressure, help you digest food quicker and easier. Just helps your body all around be better.
And then my wife mentioned here the microbiome. Improves your microbiome. Am I saying that right?
Microbiome, yes, sir.
Microbiome, okay. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so the prebiotics, so it's FOS and GOS, it does help you stimulate a good microbiome. That's the biome in your body, those live bacteria. We have to eat foods that feed those bacteria so that you can have, again, a better quality of life. So I'm going to flip through some of these studies that we were talking about earlier. You know, this study right here is from Food Function, supports a healthy metabolism, effective weight management. This one talks about health support weight management, overall metabolic health, supports a balanced approach to weight management. Anytime you can lower, right, the weight on your body, that's going to lower your BMI. That's going to lower your blood pressure. This one talks about, this was from Journal of Functional Medicine, supports healthy blood pressure levels in a normal range and supports weight management. And that was done in just, I think, 84 days or so. Helps maintain blood pressure within a healthy range, 84 days, 3% decrease in systolic. So these studies are studies that you can find all over medical journals. That last one was in Molecules, and then the European Journal of Nutrition promotes satiety, right? That's the fullness that you feel through gut hormone regulation, which is that ghrelin leptin that we talked about earlier.
And then obviously prebiotics fits in with all that as well.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. You know, prebiotics feed the probiotics. So, you know, you got to have those probiotics in your body.
And then lowers inflammation, which of course we know a lot of our problems are inflammation related. I mean, again, this is all what my wife loves about this is that it not only curbs her appetite, but then it gives her all these other benefits, as we said, from regulating your blood glucose levels to optimizing your insulin, to lowers the bad cholesterol, raising the good cholesterol, blood pressure, overall good cardiac health. I mean, she's been researching you guys, but go to the lowers inflammation.
Yeah, you know, again, whenever you can take a product and place your cinnamon, your chromium picolinate, those great prebiotics and metabolate, and you put them together synergistically, they're going to work together to lower your cortisol in your body, increase your metabolism, help you with heart health, just overall help your body just be in a better state. And that's what we found with this Bellatrim. It is a genius product. Let me show you a couple of pictures if I can.
Yeah.
This is me taking Bellatrim after about 6 months or so. I've lost about 35, 40 pounds there. I just threw that up there because I wanted to see, and on the picture being on the left, Brandon, I thought I was a healthy individual. I didn't know how unhealthy I truly was with that inflammation in my body. And then we'll take a look at my friend, Karen. Now, Karen's on the Bella Grace Elixir and the Bellatrim, but she dropped about 65 pounds or so. And then my own wife, this is after our first child. She got some severe mold toxicity, undetected Lyme disease. We cleared that out with the Bella Grace Elixir and some of our other things that we do in our practice. And then with the Bellatrim, she was able to shed about 30 pounds as well. So these products absolutely work at 100%. And we are so blessed and pleased to have them as part of our Bella Grace product line.
And then, of course, let's just throw in for good measure the elixir, which is just I'm addicted to this. I'm addicted to the elixir in a good way because of the great benefits I personally have received. And I don't know what I would do if you guys ever stopped offering it, because you know the hair growth, my hands are not cracked and bleeding. I sleep better at night. I don't have acid reflux I struggled with for years taking Pepsid. I mean, I could go on and on. All the things that have improved in my health since taking Bella Grace, and I'm not joking. It's well, of course, that's why it's got 80 clinical trials behind it. But this too has like 5 or 6 behind it as well. The Bellatrim.
The Bellatrim has 8 clinical trials, 6 international awards, 80 human clinical trials with our Bella Grace Elixir. As you said, You don't want to go a day without it. We have so many patients in my office that say the same thing. So many people around the country say the same thing. And it's a product that people really get connected to. And I really believe it's because of those three ingredients: the collagen, that Versol B collagen, the asteryl astaxanthin, and then the cat's claw. The cat's claw is absolutely fantastic as well as a product alone. All three have anti-inflammatory properties.
How do these two complement each other?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked that, Brandon. This is where it gets really interesting. The astaxanthin in our Bella Grace elixir, remember, it crosses the cellular wall because it's both fat soluble and water soluble. So the astaxanthin can protect the entire cell. Well, when it pierces into the cell wall, it sets up by the mitochondria. Again, the mitochondria is where you make and produce energy. And when you're producing energy, the output of that energy is going to be free radicals in the form of like lactic acid. So the astaxanthin has been shown through research to do a couple of things in the mitochondria: make it work more cleaner. It cleans the mitochondria up. If a mitochondria is in disarray, it's not working properly, it can actually go to that cell, that organelle, and either destroy it or tell it to repair itself and get it to repair. So it actually cleans up the mitochondria that aren't working properly and helps repair it for those ones that can be repaired. So it's actually making the mitochondria stronger and better. Now we talk about the Bella Trim. The Bella Trim, then through that AMPK pathway of metabolite, it goes right to the mitochondria and it tells that clean mitochondria, make more energy, produce more energy for the cells. And remember, there's anywhere between 3,000 and 7,000 mitochondria per cell in the body, depends on what kind of cell it is. So it tells those mitochondria make more power, make more information, make the cells work stronger and better. And by doing that, it raises the metabolism up, cuts the fat off the body, and allows the body to work at a much better, much cleaner way.
Well, we are sold on it. It works. I love the Bella Grace. I take this every day. Melissa loves the skincare. And of course, now she loves this. She's taking it every day, speaks very, very highly of it. Melissa's a student. So she went and did her homework. What am I taking? She examined what's on the back of the bottle. She went and read some studies, listened to some recordings by a couple of the docs behind it. And she came to me this weekend and said, I don't think we're explaining to people how much science is in this and why it's not just something for diet. It's something that people could take every day for multiple health benefits. And so she said, we got to get Dr. Lucky on to talk about it. And so I've done what the boss told me to do.
I do a lot of blood work in my practice. And,
oh, really?
We do a lot of different services here. So we're watching people's blood work get better over time on the Bella Grace elixir and on the Bella Trim. So we're watching cholesterol levels drop. We're watching blood pressure, as you know, which doesn't show up on blood work, but does show up in their exams. We're watching blood work just change for the better on many, many different patients. I'll never forget one of my patients. He's on a radio show here, country radio show. His name is Hunter, great guy. I mean, he was just all out of sorts. We put him on both products, and within a couple of months, all his numbers normalized. I mean, his cholesterol dropped. I'll send it to you. We'll post it next time. I'll show everybody. And he doesn't mind if I do it, but it went from like 580 down to like 250. I mean, it was dangerously high on him. It was amazing. And all he did was the change that he made was our Bella Grace products.
Wow, fascinating. MelissaHouseBG.com, of course, folks. Get subscriptions of these so they show up automatically. MelissaHouseBG.com, which, you're going to say something?
I was just going to say one more thing. We're working on a new one.
Oh, you're going to hold out on me, aren't you?
Well, you know I'm under an NDA, Brandon. I can't tell you about it now, but hopefully soon I'll be able to. But I will tell you this, that it's going to change. The new one is going to change the health of the world, just like the other products. And Melissa's going to be really excited about it.
Well, everything you've done so far, we're 100% behind. MelissaHouseBG.com to get set up. And as always, Dr. Lucky, thank you.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a great day. Great
You
night.
too, my friend. Check it out, folks. MelissaHouseBG.com. All right. Well, that's our broadcast for tonight, Dolly. You want to come and say hi? You haven't, come on up. Come on. You haven't said hi to everybody tonight. Say, hello, America. Hello, America. Yeah. That's our studio dog, Dolly, as if you guys don't know, right? Are you ready to call it a night? Go outside and play with a tennis ball? Did you have your banana today? And your pumpkin? Ooh, you love pumpkin, don't you? Mm-hmm. All right, folks, don't forget about us, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. We need your support. We push it all out for free, and free Roku channel, free iOS app, free Android app, all these things, free programming, free streaming platforms. How do we afford to do it? Well, we're brought to you by you, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. And then, of course, remember, check out all our sponsors at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. We sure appreciate all your support. Roll the music. Let's call it a night. Dolly is ready to get out of here and go play with the tennis ball. Right, Dolly? Where'd you go? Right now you're playing with a plastic bottle. Is that an empty water bottle you got there, girl? Yeah, it's an empty water bottle. I can hear her chasing it around the studio floor. She loves that. All right. Well, that's our broadcast. As always, thank you. Hey, don't forget to order your free business cards. They're free. We have sent out thousands of these, folks. Just go to worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. Get your free business cards. They come in pack of 20, and you can pass them out to friends and family, or maybe someone you're out around town and you meet someone around town, and you think, hey, I think these guys would enjoy Brandon's show, or Colonel Manus, or JJ, or any of the shows we have at Worldview Tube. Give them one of our cards. They'll probably thank you later. A lot of people say, I wish I didn't know about you guys years ago. So introduce Worldview Tube to people. Get your free cards, worldviewstore.com. So next time I'm Brandon House, may God save America. Take care.
You're watching Worldview Tube, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brandon House.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brandon House.
Welcome. Glad you're with us on this Monday, March 10th, 2025. Of course, the sad news all weekend that many of us have been following, and I'm sure many of you have as well, is what appears to be the murder of thousands of Christians in Syria. The images are very graphic. And in fact, we would show some of them to you, but apparently X is under cyber attack and is coming up and down. One has to wonder who's behind that, right?